We live in a world that constantly urges us to stay connected, to be present, to show up at every opportunity. But have we stopped to ask ourselves, what is the cost of always being there? What happens when we never step back to give space for others to truly appreciate who we are and what we bring? Letting people miss you isn't about playing games, it's about recognizing the value of your presence. It's about understanding that relationships, whether personal or professional, thrive not only on connection, but also on moments of absence. Absence creates space for gratitude. It allows others to reflect on the unique contributions you make to their lives and the energy you bring into a room. Think of it this way: a melody is made beautiful not just by the notes we hear, but by the silence between them. Without pauses, music becomes noise. The same holds true for the rhythm of our relationships. Constant presence can dull even the most vibrant connections. But when we step back, we give others the gift of reflection. Letting people miss you also means setting boundaries, not walls, but healthy limits that protect your energy and well-being. When you honor your own needs, you show others how to honor them too. It's not selfish, it's essential. Your worth isn't defined by how much of yourself you give away, but by the authenticity you bring when you do show up. There's courage in letting go of the fear that stepping back means being forgotten. It's not easy, especially if we're used to finding validation in our constant availability. But here's the truth: the relationships that truly matter will endure. Those who value you will notice your absence and welcome your return with open hearts. It's also about trusting yourself to know when to step back, and trusting others to hold space for you in your absence. Trust that the seeds you've planted in your connections will grow, even when you're not watching over them. In the tapestry of our relationships, presence often feels like the thread that holds everything together. We're taught to be available, to show up, to lean in, and while these qualities are vital, there's an equally important, often overlooked truth: absence has its own profound value. It is in moments of stepping back that the true weight of our presence is realized. Absence creates a space where others can reflect on what you bring to the relationship. When you're constantly present, your contributions, energy, and essence can unintentionally blend into the background, becoming something expected rather than something extraordinary. Imagine a favorite piece of music played on repeat. No matter how beautiful, its magic can fade if it becomes overly familiar. But when it's paused and silence takes its place, we are reminded of how much we cherish its melody. Similarly, stepping back in our relationships allows others to experience that pause and opportunity to miss the nuances that make you unique. Absence creates the conditions for gratitude to flourish. It is in the quiet, in the spaces you leave behind, that your impact resonates most deeply. This idea of finding value in absence is not about withholding yourself as a strategy or manipulating emotions. Instead, it's about honoring the natural ebb and flow of human connection. Relationships are not static, they require space to breathe and evolve. When we step back, we allow others to reflect on the richness we bring and to develop a deeper appreciation for our presence. Absence also invites reciprocity. It encourages others to step forward, to meet you halfway, to show their care and investment in the relationship. Constant availability can unintentionally lead to imbalances, where one person gives more than they receive. By stepping back, you create room for a healthier dynamic, one in which both parties actively contribute to the connection. Moreover, absence doesn't mean disconnection. It means trusting that the bonds you've built are strong enough to endure a little space. It's a reminder that meaningful relationships are not measured by proximity, but by depth. You don't need to be physically or emotionally present at all times for your value to be felt. In professional settings, this principle is equally vital. Whether at work or within a team, your absence can highlight the significance of your role. When you step back, others notice the gaps you fill and the unique perspective you bring. It's often in your absence that the full scope of your contributions becomes evident. Absence is also an opportunity for self-reflection. When you're always on, it's easy to lose sight of your own needs, priorities, and boundaries. By stepping back, you give yourself the gift of time to recharge, to reflect, and to reconnect with your sense of self. In these moments, you can reassess what truly matters and return with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. The value of absence lies in its ability to foster both individual and relational growth. It challenges us to trust the strength of our connections and to believe that our worth is not contingent on constant visibility. True presence is not about how often we show up, but about the quality and authenticity we bring when we do. Absence creates a balance that sustains the rhythm of relationships, reminding us that to be truly seen and appreciated, we must sometimes step away. In the quiet of our absence, our presence is amplified. In a world where we are constantly encouraged to stay connected and available, it can feel counterintuitive to step back. We often equate presence with value and availability with loyalty, but this mindset overlooks a profound truth. Stepping away creates space for reflection, which is one of the greatest gifts we can offer in any relationship. When we are always present, our contributions, energy, and even our essence can become an expected backdrop. Imagine listening to a beautiful piece of music where every note is played continuously without pause. What happens? The beauty of the melody is lost in the noise. The silence between the notes, the space where we anticipate and reflect, creates the magic. Similarly, in relationships, the moments when we step back allow others to truly hear and feel the impact of our presence. Reflection is a powerful process. It's in the absence of something or someone that we often come to understand their true value. Think about how we appreciate the warmth of the sun after a long stretch of gray days, or the significance of a heartfelt conversation after a period of silence. In those moments of absence, gratitude is born. People begin to see what they might have overlooked when you were always there. They notice the support you provided, the joy you brought, the insights you shared, or simply the comfort of your company. Stepping back doesn't mean abandoning or neglecting your relationships. It means giving others the opportunity to notice and cherish what they might otherwise take for granted. Reflection fosters a deeper connection, one built not just on habit or routine, but on genuine appreciation. This process also works both ways. When you step back, you too have the opportunity to reflect. You can assess how your presence is being received and valued, and whether your relationships are reciprocal or one-sided. Are you giving more than you're receiving? Are your efforts being acknowledged, or are they being overlooked because they've become an unspoken expectation? Allowing space for reflection is particularly important in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected society. We are inundated with messages, notifications, and demands for our attention. The more we give in to the pressure to always be available, the less time we have to pause and consider the quality of our interactions. By stepping back, we create a moment of stillness where we and others can evaluate what truly matters. It's important to recognize that reflection requires vulnerability. When you step back, you risk realizing that some relationships thrive only when you're the one putting in all the effort. That can be a difficult truth to face, but it's also an opportunity to realign your energy toward connections that are more meaningful and mutually enriching. There is also an element of trust involved. Trusting others to reflect on your absence without resentment. Trusting yourself to let go of the need for constant reassurance and validation. Trusting the relationship to withstand the space you've created and emerge stronger because of it. Reflection is not about forcing others to miss you or creating artificial distance. It's about recognizing that relationships need room to breathe. It's about honoring the natural rhythm of human connection, where presence and absence dance together to create something beautiful and lasting. In letting others reflect on your presence during moments of absence, you foster a deeper understanding of your value, your impact, and the unique role you play in their lives. It's a gift not only to them, but to yourself, a chance to nurture connections that are built on respect, gratitude, and genuine care. Setting boundaries in relationships isn't about building walls to keep people out. It's about constructing gates that allow for healthy, respectful interactions. Boundaries are an essential part of self-care. And when embraced, they empower not only you, but also the relationships you hold dear. They define what you will and won't tolerate, where your energy flows, and how your time is spent. In today's hyper-connected world, there is often an unspoken expectation to always be available emotionally, physically, and even digitally. This relentless availability can lead to burnout, resentment, and even the erosion of self-worth. By setting boundaries, you reclaim your autonomy and communicate your needs to others. This act is not selfish, it is an act of respect for yourself and the relationships you value. When you establish boundaries, you are sending a powerful message: I value myself enough to protect my energy. And I value you enough to be clear about what I can and cannot give. Boundaries are a way of teaching others how to treat you. They set the foundation for trust and mutual respect, ensuring that interactions are based on authenticity rather than obligation. Think about a relationship where one person is always giving time, energy, support without ever asking for what they need. Over time, this imbalance can lead to frustration, exhaustion, and even the deterioration of the bond. However, when boundaries are present, both parties are encouraged to show up in ways that feel sustainable and meaningful. Each person understands the limits and possibilities of the relationship, creating a space where mutual respect thrives. Boundaries also empower relationships by preventing emotional enmeshment, where one person's emotions and needs overshadow another's. By setting clear limits, you ensure that both individuals maintain their individuality while still nurturing the connection. This balance allows relationships to grow in a healthy way, free from the weight of unspoken expectations or misplaced obligations. It's important to remember that setting boundaries doesn't mean saying no to everything or shutting people out. It means saying yes to what aligns with your values, priorities, and well-being. It's about being intentional with your time and energy, ensuring that when you do engage, you are fully present and authentic. When you operate from a place of self-respect, you invite others to meet you. In a world that celebrates constant presence and availability, the idea of stepping back can feel intimidating, even risky. Many of us have internalized the belief that to be valued, we must always be visible. We equate our worth with how often we show up, how accessible we make ourselves, and how much we can give. But this mindset, while seemingly noble, often leads to burnout, resentment, and a diminished sense of self. The truth is, stepping back requires courage, a kind of quiet, resolute bravery that doesn't come easily. It's the courage to release the fear of being forgotten, overlooked, or left behind. It's the strength to say, I am enough, even when I'm not in the room. This is not a decision born out of selfishness or neglect, but one rooted in self-respect and trust. When we cling to the need to be constantly present, we inadvertently create a cycle of dependency. We teach those around us that we'll always be there to solve the problem, answer the call, or fill the silence. While this might feel validating in the short term, it can erode the foundations of our relationships over time. Others may come to take our presence for granted, not out of malice, but because they haven't been given the space to recognize its true value. Stepping back disrupts this cycle. It says to the world, I trust you to hold this space without me for a while. It invites others to step up, to contribute, and to discover their own capacities. It also gives them the chance to reflect on what you bring to their lives, your energy, your insights, your kindness, and in that reflection, appreciation grows. But let's be honest, stepping back is scary. It triggers the fear of irrelevance, the anxiety that our absence will go unnoticed, or worse, that it will be a relief to others. This fear taps into our deepest insecurities. Am I important enough? Do I matter? Will they forget me? These are vulnerable questions, and the act of stepping back forces us to confront them head-on. Yet, this is where courage comes into play. Courage doesn't mean the absence of fear, it means moving forward despite it. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to how much you do for others or how often you're seen. Your worth is inherent. It exists whether you're in the spotlight or sitting quietly in the background. When you step back, you also make room for growth, both yours and others. For you, it's an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to recharge and to reflect on what truly matters. For others, it's a chance to experience the world without your constant influence and to grow in their independence. This isn't about abandoning relationships or responsibilities, it's about trusting them to flourish even when you're not holding them up. Think of it as pruning a plant. At first, cutting back the branches might feel counterproductive, even harsh. But over time, the plant grows back stronger, fuller, and healthier. Similarly, stepping back from relationships or commitments allows space for renewal and deeper appreciation. Courage over fear also means embracing the possibility of change. When you step back, things may shift. Dynamics might evolve and some relationships might fade. This can be painful, but it's also revealing. The connections that truly matter, the ones built on mutual respect and authenticity, will endure. They will adapt to your absence and welcome your return with open arms. At its core, this courage is about self-trust. It's about believing in your own value and knowing that it doesn't diminish when you take a step away. It's about trusting the people in your life to remember your worth, even when you're not reminding them every moment. And it's about trusting the universe to hold your place, knowing that absence doesn't erase your impact. Stepping back isn't about disappearing, it's about creating space for yourself, for others, and for the growth that happens in between. It's about breaking free from the fear-driven cycle of constant presence and embracing the strength that comes from letting go. When you act with courage, you show others the power of trust, resilience, and self-worth. And in doing so, you inspire them to find that courage within themselves. So step back, let them miss you. Not because you're seeking validation, but because you trust that what you've already given is enough. Courage over fear, this is the path to deeper, more meaningful connections. In a world where constant connectivity is celebrated, trusting in the process of stepping back can feel counterintuitive, even risky. We are often conditioned to believe that our value lies in how much we give, how often we show up, or how readily available we make ourselves to others. But true connection doesn't thrive on constant proximity, it flourishes in the spaces where trust is allowed to take root. Trusting the process means embracing the idea that your absence can be as powerful as your presence, and that stepping back can create deeper, more meaningful bonds. The first layer of this trust lies within. It requires a deep faith in your own intuition and the confidence to believe that you will know when it's time to step back. This isn't about retreating out of fear or withdrawing out of resentment. It's about recognizing moments when space is needed for growth, for healing, or for clarity. Trusting yourself also means silencing the internal dialogue that equates stepping back with being unworthy or unimportant. It's easy to think if I'm not here, they'll forget me, or if I don't constantly prove my value, I'll lose my place. These thoughts come from a place of scarcity, not abundance. The reality is that your worth doesn't diminish in your absence. In fact, stepping back can illuminate your value even more clearly, allowing others to see and appreciate what they might otherwise take for granted. The second layer of trust involves others. When you step back, you're giving the people in your life the opportunity to show up for you. This can be an act of vulnerability, as it means relinquishing control and allowing them to take the initiative. It's a quiet acknowledgement that relationships are a two-way street, and that others must also invest in their growth and sustainability. Trusting others also means believing that they can hold space for you in your absence. It's about having faith that your relationships are strong enough to withstand moments of distance, and that the bonds you've built are resilient and meaningful. This trust can be particularly challenging if past experiences have taught you that absence leads to abandonment. But part of trusting the process is recognizing that the people who truly matter will not disappear. When you step away, they will respect and honor your need for space. Finally, there's trust in the relationship itself. Every connection, whether personal or professional, has its own rhythm. Like a dance, there are moments of closeness and moments of separation. Trusting the relationship means allowing it to breathe, to ebb and flow naturally, without forcing constant closeness. This trust is rooted in the understanding that relationships are not built solely in the moments of connection, but also in the spaces in between. It's in those spaces that people reflect, grow, and come to appreciate the role you play in their lives. Stepping back doesn't weaken the relationship, it strengthens it by creating room for deeper appreciation and renewal. Trusting the process of stepping back is, at its core, an act of letting go of control, of fear, and of the need for constant validation. It's about believing that the seeds you've planted in your connections will continue to grow, even when you're not there to tend them every moment. This act of letting go is also a form of respect for yourself and your own boundaries, as well as respect for others and their ability to navigate the relationship without your constant presence. It's a reminder that relationships are partnerships, not dependencies, and that mutual trust is the foundation on which they thrive. Think of a garden. If you plant seeds and never give them space to grow, constantly hovering, watering, and tending, you might drown them or prevent them from rooting deeply. But when you trust the process and step back, you allow nature to do its work. The same is true for relationships. Growth happens in the gaps, in the moments when you step away and trust that what you've nurtured will flourish. This is especially important in professional settings, where the instinct to micromanage can stifle creativity and growth. By stepping back, you empower others to take ownership, make decisions, and show their capabilities. You're not just building relationships, you're building trust and fostering independence. Stepping back isn't just about others, it's also about reclaiming your energy and focusing on your own growth. It's an opportunity to reflect, recharge, and realign with your values and priorities. When you trust the process, you give yourself permission to step into your own space, knowing that your relationships will still be there when you return. This time apart can lead to personal transformation. It allows you to gain perspective, reassess what's important, and return with a renewed sense of purpose and clarity. Trusting the process is as much about self-care as it is about connection. Perhaps the hardest part of stepping back is trusting the unknown. There's no guarantee of how others will respond, or how the relationship will evolve in your absence. But trust isn't about certainty, it's about faith. It's about believing that what's meant to endure will endure, and that the relationships that truly matter will not only survive but thrive. This trust in the unknown is a powerful act of courage. It's a reminder that we can't control everything, nor should we try. The beauty of life and relationships lies in their unpredictability, in the way they surprise and challenge us. In life, there's a delicate balance between presence and absence, connection and distance. It's a balance many of us struggle to find, especially in a world that glorifies constant engagement and availability. But to truly nurture relationships and maintain our own sense of identity and worth, we must recognize the profound power of intentional space, the pauses that make our presence meaningful. Think about the analogy of music. What makes a melody beautiful is not just the notes we hear, but the silences in between. These pauses give structure, rhythm, and meaning to the music. Without them, even the most harmonious sounds would blend into an overwhelming cacophony. Similarly, our presence in relationships, workplaces, and communities becomes significant only when punctuated by moments of absence. These moments allow our energy, efforts, and contributions to be truly seen and appreciated. When we are always available, always saying yes, always present, we risk becoming background noise in the lives of others. Our presence may be taken for granted, not out of malice, but because there is no opportunity for others to reflect on what we bring. Constant availability can dilute the impact of our presence, leaving it unacknowledged or undervalued. To combat this, we must embrace intentional absence as a way to enhance the quality of our connections. Intentional absence is not about withdrawing or isolating ourselves. It is about creating moments of stillness that allow both ourselves and others to breathe, reflect, and reconnect with what matters most. It's about saying, I trust you to hold this space while I step back, and in doing so, fostering a dynamic of mutual respect and understanding. When we take a step back, we provide others with the opportunity to feel our absence, to realize what is missing when we're not around. This space can be transformative. It gives people the chance to recognize the qualities, energy, and value we bring into their lives. It also gives us the clarity to understand how we want to show up moving forward. Creating balance and presence doesn't mean we stop showing up for those who matter or disengage from our responsibilities. Instead, it's about learning to prioritize quality over quantity. Think of it as moving from being perpetually on to being intentionally engaged. When we step into a room, we bring our full selves energized, focused, and ready to contribute because we've allowed ourselves the space to recharge and reflect. This balance requires setting boundaries, which can feel counterintuitive in a culture that values constant hustle and availability. However, boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to healthier, more meaningful connections. They signal that we respect ourselves enough to care for our needs and, in turn, teach others to do the same. Balancing presence with absence is also about maintaining authenticity. When we give ourselves the time and space to reflect on what truly matters, we show up with intention. Our presence becomes a gift, not an obligation. And when we are absent, it is not a punishment or a withdrawal, but a necessary pause that enhances the relationships we value. Finally, creating balance and presence reminds us of the importance of reciprocity in relationships. It is not our job to fill every void, solve every problem, or always be the one reaching out. By stepping back, we allow others to step forward. We create space for mutual effort ensuring that relationships are built on shared investment rather than one-sided sacrifice. When we embrace this balance, we unlock the potential for deeper, more meaningful connections. We allow the people in our lives to not only value our presence, but to cherish it. And in cherishing it, they come to see that our moments of absence are not a loss, but a necessary part of what makes our presence so impactful. In the end, the art of balancing presence is about knowing when to step forward and when to step back. It's about trusting that the relationships worth having will thrive, not in the constant hum of connection, but in the ebb and flow of meaningful engagement.